Hi, I'm Nancy from Completely Quilted, and today I will be demonstrating block 3 of the Curve It Up block of the month, which is the rail fence block.
Okay, so today we're doing the rail fence block. Okay, so this is a really pretty simple block. You're going to start with 4 fabrics, and I cut them all and squared them up to size, all in one stack. So they're all stacked up really nice on my mat. So I squared them up to the size the pattern calls for. And then I'm going to cut all of the rings for all of the rail fence blocks all at once. Okay, so first step is to line up on this 3-inch line, one edge. So we're kind of squaring up this edge and cutting this inside ring first. Okay, so I've got that lined up with my 3-inch line. Just like always, we're going to center the edge of this piece in between that 1 and the 11 and make our cut. So I'm cutting 4 layers at once. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shift it down, and I'm not going to be using these curved pieces like we have in the past, these curved lines here. What I'm going to be lining it up with is the 5-inch line is where the points are going to be, right here on this 5-inch line. So that's going to be my my guide for how wide this curve is going to be. Okay, so I've got the 5-inch points here and here, and then I'm going to cut my next ring. And then I'm just going to shift it down, and same thing, I'm going to cut with the 5-inch points and one more. So if you look here, you don't have a whole lot of extra, fudge room. So this is scrap, and now I've got my 4 segments. So these are going to get sewn together all the same way. So whatever color order you decide to sew these into, say you want, blue, green, whatever colors are in your kits, you can kind of mix them up and decide, I might want to sew them all like this. Okay, so whatever you decide color order, you're going to sew them all in that order with these rings like this. We're also going to be cutting our background rectangles, and you're going to use all of this piece, so there won't be any leftover scrap from this section. Okay, you're going to cut a curve in, curve out, and one side's going to go on one edge of the block, and the other side's going to go on the other edge of the block. So it's important that well, it's always important to cut accurately. Okay, so I've got all 4 of mine stacked here, and I'm going to position between the 1 and 11, just like I always have positioned that. And then this left edge is going to be aligned with the 4-inch line in my ruler here. Okay, so that'll be that one side of the block, and then the other side. So you can kind of see here if I lay these back out that you've got one side of the block and then the other side. So now I'm ready to sew these into my sets and my blocks, and then we'll square the blocks up. Alright, so now we're ready to sew our curves. So I have my 1/4-inch presser foot on here, because you want really accurate 1/4-inch seams, because you're going to be sewing a lot of curves with these blocks. Okay? So I'm going to start here. First piece I'm going to sew would be, the first section of the unit. Okay? So I have my right sides facing up. Really, how you want to sew this, though, is you would turn it around. Okay? And because our background is, doesn't have a right or wrong side, you always want to make sure that you're seeing the right side of your color strip like this. And then when I put this right sides together, you're going to have that little 1/4 of an inch space just like we always do, between the edge of the background section, you know, and the point of your curve, okay? So that way, you know, you can see here, this is the right side of the fabric, so I've got right sides together. And I'm going to lower my presser foot on there. I'm just going to start with a few stitches. Now that just kind of tacks it down. As you can see that I'm only watching about 1 inch in front at a time. I'm just going to slowly, as it gets closer to the needle, kind of push the fabrics together. On this block, you're going to have a lot more curve sewing, you know, with each step. So with each step, you know, if you're stretching the fabric, it's going to get more and more warped. So, you know, we've sewn, this will be our 3rd block, so you should be getting, you know, more experience with the curved piecing, but still take your time. So you're seeing me raise the presser foot and just gently bring that together every once in a while, because I don't want to have any tucks or folds. If I didn't do that, you can kind of see the fabric start to fold right here and kind of get pushed out. So to keep from just keep sewing over that and making a little tuck, I just lift up my presser foot and put it back down when everything is nice and flat. Now just like all of our blocks, we're going to have a nice generous amount of squaring up room. So you can see here at the end, I didn't have another 1/4 of an inch of my my regular fabric poking out here. It's not super equal, okay, but that's all right, because we'll be able to square that up. So that's what that block looks like. So it should be nice and flat, and I'm just going to continue that, okay? So now I'm going to grab my next section, my next color, okay? So you can see this is how they're supposed to look, and what I do is I turn it around, okay, because I want that bottom piece, okay, right side facing up, and then I'm going to put my section that I've sewn right side facing down onto it, and I'm still going to have that 1/4 of an inch little tail, and I'm going to sew my next piece. Okay, so when you're pressing these blocks, you normally when you're pressing quilt blocks, you press them from the front, but when you're doing these types of curves, you're actually going to be pressing from the back side. And you're going to press them all going in the same direction, okay? I'm going to be pressing mine this direction, okay, towards the top, okay? So you can stretch out and warp the block a lot during the pressing part. So we're not ironing, we're going to press it. So it's really important that you're going to just be, you know, turning the seam over and just applying the hot iron straight down. If you want, you can use Best Press. I love that product, especially for a really nice starched flat block. Alright, so I'm just slightly drawing my iron over the seam, and I'm not really pushing it. You can't really see it, but I'm lifting it and then pushing it straight down on the block. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the next seam. So you can see that they're nice and straight. On the other side, I might have, you know, a little bit of a valley on the other side. You might be able to see it here. Or you might have a little bit of space, you know, on this side of the block. But that's okay. It'll look flatter, you know, if you press it from the back side than if you pressed it from the front. So on that last seam, it looks like I got a little bit stretchy there. But I can fix a lot of that on this side from the top now. So I pressed everything from the back side first. We'll use a little bit of my Best Press now. Try to make that flat. So I have a little bit of fullness in my block there. But most of it I'm going to be able to press out, especially with that starch. Alright, so there's my pressed block. Alright, I need to square up my block now to 8.5 inches. So my square up ruler is larger than 8.5 inches, but that's okay. What I've done is with a little white erase marker or like wash away marker, I marked my 8.5 line. So that's something where my eye's going to go to so that I don't have to worry about everything around me. Okay. So on this block, what I want is I want a 1/2 inch from this curve, okay, out. So I'm going to line up and I'll mark it a little darker so that you can see here. There's 1/2 inch on my ruler. So I'm going to put that 1/2 inch line on the intersection of the curve, okay, wherever that might be. So I'm going to start here. Now I'm going to look at where my 8.5 inch line is here. So there's 8.5. And I'm going to put that 1/2 inch line on the intersection of the curve here. So you can see how much fabric I have to square off. So it doesn't matter that my block is, a kind of off rainbow. I'm going to have plenty of room to make sure that these are all going to be the same size. So this is your common point, this 1/2 inch here from that curve on either side, okay? And so this dimension out here should be the same on all your blocks, okay? So 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. And I'm going to take my first cut on this side and this side of my ruler. There we go. Just like that. Alright. So then I'm going to turn my block around so that cut edge is now on this inside 8.5 inch line on my ruler. And you can see up here, there's my 8.5, that's a 1/2 inch. You can still see that that curve of my block here, okay, it meets up with the intersection of the 1/2 inch from that white background fabric. Now I square up the other two sides. So I'm going to make 4 of these 8.5 inch blocks, and I'll piece them together